Well, we are driving up to the fire academy, in which we usually train. The snow was brutal. We were doing 7 kilometers an hour, so we ultimately decided to turn around. And then my impulsive brain decided, nope, we got a coffee, we're gonna go instead. And the way we're going now is actually much faster, so it's looking like our day is gonna pan out. But the way it is taking us is a route that is in a place that I haven't been to in a long time. And it kind of brought up a point that I felt like I wanted to speak to, and I think it's a reality for a lot of people that work in the first responder community, is there is areas and places on this earth that are going to be imprinted on your brain forever. And one of those areas is just up the road here, where I went to one of probably the most traumatic and difficult calls that I've experienced. And I think, one of the things that makes it difficult, especially if you work in the community in which you live, is there is going to be these intersections and these locations that will hold negative memories and be difficult to drive by. And, if this is somewhere that you frequent, you're going to have to experience and relive these experiences, sometimes multiple times a week, multiple times a day. Depending on where it is, and that can be challenging. This location in particular is nowhere near the city I work, but when I used to work ambulance, it was out in this area. So it's been a very long time since I've been out this way, and actually the last time I was out this way was at a golf tournament, and it was very close to this location. I feel like, in the time past since, I had been to this call, I had done a lot of internal work and reflection, and I had grown a lot as a person. And I specifically, after this golf tournament, decided to take a detour and drive past this location. I pulled my truck over, I got out, and I just sat with that discomfort. And I think that, for me at least, was a big way of healing, and being able just to acknowledge that although this was horrific and tragic and hard to deal with, that I was able to live with it. I think one of the big things about trauma and working past, some of these experiences is this idea of integration. No matter what amount of distraction or suppression you try to participate in, you will never be able to forget these things. They will never cease to exist. But our ability to integrate these things, learn to live with them, that is how you heal, and that is how you move past these experiences as a first responder. So although when I drove up to this location, my palms were sweating, I felt like I had a frog in my throat, my heart was pounding, it was extremely difficult, just being able to be there and be present was huge. If you've sort of lived in this world, I'm sure you can understand these experiences and how hard and how difficult, these things can be. So it's just up here about 100 feet on the left, and I remember as I crested this hill last time, like I said, my heart was pounding out of my chest. I was sweating, I was extremely nervous, and I was overwhelmed. And now, despite the fact that I have a bunch of coffee inside me, I don't feel that way. And I think it's an indication of growth, of healing. And I'm literally staring at the location just up here. I'm not sure if the cross is still present, but oh yeah, hide behind the guardrail there, just peeking up. A little bit choked up, because fuck, man, when you experience these things, and again, the people that know, is when I drive up there, and as the hair on the back of my neck starts to stand up, I can smell the asphalt. I can picture the motor oil and all the fluids on the ground. I can remember the sounds and the people screaming and all those things, because there was 3 individuals in this car that needed out, and they didn't have the tools. And I remember my preceptor at the time, I was just a student, I was very new, I was maybe 19 years old. People that work in this community, we don't think, we act. And he didn't have a tool. I think there was a bystander there with a piece of metal or something, and I remember him just wailing on this door to get in and help these people, these kids that were inside this car. The way they acted, the professionalism, and watching all these people, police, paramedics, firefighters, doing everything at their capacity to help these people is really why I love what I do. And I think I work with some of the most amazing people in the world, is because when you're surrounded by individuals that all they want to do is help, and they're willing to do anything, risk life and limb in order to help people, that is powerful. That is humanity. That is love. And although, our actions on that day did not change the outcome, regardless of the fact that we had a police escort blocking every intersection from here to the hospital, and I think from the town we're in now to where the hospital was, that was the fastest trip I will ever take, and will be the fastest trip I'll ever take, because again, these people are doing everything in their power to do what we could. Whether you're in it now, there still is that one call that you're dealing with, or those calls that you were dealing with. If you do apply yourself, and if you do decide to lean into the healthy coping mechanisms like exercise, like mindfulness, if you're willing to seek help, whether that's through books, podcasts, or external professional help, things do get better. And I think that's, why I preach here at Everyday Heroes, being fit for duty and fit for life, is because, I want you to be mentally and physically fit for your work, yes. But if your work is robbing your capacity to show up for your kids, for your wife, if it's robbing your ability to enjoy just the day-to-day, then that's an issue. And that's why I want to help, because I've been there. I've been that guy that wasn't really sure if he really wanted to see tomorrow. I was that guy who questioned why I got in this job in the first place. And it wasn't until I doubled down and really understood my why that I realized that I was put on this planet to do this job.